the leader of Ayetoro, had allowed these traditions to fade. His focus was on expansion. He wanted the village to grow to become a great trading hub, to rival the cities of the inland kingdoms. He listened more to the merchants than to the elders, and he ignored the warnings of his only son, Prince Adeife. Prince Adeife was unlike other young men in Ayetoro. He was the son of the chief. He had never cared for power or wealth. While the other boys wrestled or boasted of their strength, Adeife sat by the shore, listening to the waves, watching the sky, feeling the rhythm of the tides. His mother, Queen Moronke, when he was still king by a fever that no healer. Since then, Adeife had grown up under the watchful eye of his father, Chief Jibola, and the wisdom of Mama Efun, the last priestess of Olokun. Chief Jibola often looked at his son with frustration. "You are the future leader of Ayetoro," he would say. "You must be strong, decisive, a man of action, not a dreamer." But Adeife was not like his father. He felt a connection to the ocean that he could not explain. He would wake in the middle of the night, drawn to the shore, hearing whispers in the waves that no one else seemed to hear. "There is something in the water," he once told Mama Efu. "Something ancient, something washing." The old woman had only nodded. Olokun speaks to those who listen. Few still do. If there was one person who had not forgotten the old ways, it was Mama Efu. She had once been a powerful figure in Ayetoro, a respected priestess, the bridge between the people and Olokun. It was she who laid the sacred rites, she who interpreted the dreams of fishermen, she who won the village of the ocean's moods. But now she was an old woman, ignored and cast aside. The people saw her as little more than a relic of a bygone age. Her words dismissed as the ramblings of someone too stubborn to embrace change. Her home was a small hut near the shore, built from woven palm fronds and clay, decorated with old cowries and coral beads. Each morning she walked to the water's edge, whispering prayers into the waves, leaving small offerings of white cloths and salt. She knew that Olokun had not abandoned Ayetoro. It was the people who had abandoned her, and for that, the goddess would not remain silent forever. As the days passed, Ayetoro people continued as they always had, trading, fishing, laughing and living, unaware that their actions had set something in motion. Unaware that their actions had set something into motion, the fishermen took more than they needed, dragging a massive hose and leaving the ocean bare. The traders spoke of expanding the village further, pushing their reach beyond the coast, cutting down sacred mangroves that had long stood as the boundary between land and sea. The young men mocked the old tales, believing they were beyond the reach of gods and spirits. Even Chief Jibola, a man who had once been a devout follower of Olokun, chose to remain silent. He told himself that the gods had long stopped interfering in the affairs of men. But Prince Adeife knew better. "Baba, the sea is angry," he told his father one evening, standing at the edge of the palace compound. The wind had begun to change, carrying with it a scent that was thick, almost electric. The waves had grown restless, shifting in unnatural patterns. Chief Jibola sighed. "Adeife, you worry too much. The ocean has always been predictable." "No," Adeife insisted. "This is different. Mama Efun feels it too." At the mention of the old priestess, Chief Jibola's expression hardened. Mama Efun is an old woman, clinging to the past. The ocean will not harm us. We are Ayetoro. We are stronger than the waves. Adeife wanted to argue, but he knew it was useless. His father had made up his mind, and so he could only watch as the people of Ayetoro continued to defy the ocean, not knowing that the ocean was washing them back. The troubles began slowly, like a weakness creeping through Ayetoro. For decades, the village had thrived under the watchful gaze of the Atlantic. The sea had always provided a bounty endless. Fishermen cast their nets and returned with overflowing baskets. Women cleaned fish on wooden tables by the shore, their laughter mixing with the calls of seagulls. Children ran barefoot in sand, chasing crabs and collecting seashells. But now, that harmony had been disturbed. On the first day, only a few boats returned half-filled. The fishermen grumbled, but thought little of it. Some lifted tight, others said the fish had simply moved elsewhere. By the third day, however, the docks were eerily silent. Boats that had once come back heavy with the ocean's gift, now seafood, was reduced to selling dried fish from the previous weeks. Mothers worried, wives grew restless. The village held its breath. At night, the elders whispered among themselves. "It has happened before," said Baba Dimeji, the oldest fisherman in Ayetoro. "When I was a boy, my father spoke of the ocean on us. It was warning." "A warning of what?" someone asked. Baba Dimeji expression darkened. "Of something worse to come." As the days passed, strange things began to happen. One morning, a group of fishermen ventured farther than usual, determined to find fish, no matter how far they had to go. But what they found instead sent them back to the village, their faces pale with fear. "The ocean has changed," one of them stammered. "It is dark." Dark! The villagers rushed to the shore, their eyes widening in horror. The water had taken on an airy, unnatural hue. It was no longer the clear blue they had always known, but murky, almost black. And there was a smell, not the usual salty breeze, but something bitter and metallic. Mama Efun was already there, standing barefoot in the wet sand, her face grave. She bent down, scooping up some of the dark water in her hands. It was thick like oil. She turned to the people gathered around her. Olokun speaking, but Chief Jibola arrived at the scene, dismissed the fear. "The ocean has always been unpredictable," he said. "This is not different. The tide will shift again." Some nodded, clinging to his certainty. Others, however, were not so sure. That evening, with the sun melting into the horizon, Mama Efun prepared an offering. She moved with care, placing white cowries, coral beads, and salt into a carefully wrapped cloth, the color of the sea. Adeife watched in silence. Though he was the prince of Ayetoro, he felt drawn to the old woman. There was something about her, a knowing, an understanding of things unseen. "What are you doing?" he finally asked. Mama Efun looked up, her eyes sharp but kind. "I am trying to make peace." She waded knee-deep into the water, murmuring a prayer in the old tongue. The waves coiled around her ankles, listening. Then she released the offering, letting the sea carry it away. The villagers, watching from a distance, held their breath. For a moment, it seemed as though the ocean had accepted it. The bowl drifted further and further out. Then, without warning, the wave surged forward, fierce, unnatural. It crashed against the shore, spitting the offering back. The bowl shattered, the cowries cracked, the coral beads scattered like broken bones. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Mama Efron's face darkened. She is angry, and Adeefin, standing there in the fading light, felt into the ocean's rage. That night, the wind changed. It was not a storm, not yet, but it whispered through the village in a way that made people uneasy. Palm trees rustled violently, their fronts wiping against rooftops. Doors cracked, opened as if unseen hands were pushing them, but the worst was yet to come. At dawn, the first scream pierced the morning silence. Fishermen who had gone to check shore came stumbling back, their eyes wide with terror. The ocean had turned back. It was no longer a murky darkness they had seen before. Now it was thick, oily, unnatural. It coated the sand in a slick. Baba Dimeji, this is a warning. Some people dropped to their knees, praying to Olokun for mercy. Others ran to Jibola's palace, demanding answers. But even he had none. He said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence, it will pass. But as he spoke, a great wave rolled in, unnatural, furious, and slammed against the shore, swallowing several fishing boats whole. And then they knew this was not just the ocean. This was punishment. Panic spread through Ayetoro like wildfire. The elders gathered in hushed circles, speaking of the old ways, the forgotten gods, the need for atonement. We must rebuild the shrines, some said. We must offer her what is due. But the younger generation, the traders, the merchants, the ambitious men who had profited from the village's prosperity, scoffed at the idea. Are we to cow before meats? They demanded. This is natural. It will correct itself. The village was no longer one. Then Chief Jibola, always a man of reason, felt the weight of the divide. His people looked to him for guidance, but for the first time in years, he had no clear path forward. And then there was Adeefe. The ocean was calling him. In his dreams, he saw a woman, skin the color of the deep, her eyes endless as the sea. He heard whispers in the waves, secrets buried beneath the tide, and he knew this was only the beginning. Something was coming, and when it arrived, Ayetoro would never be the same. The waves still kissed the shore, but their reading seemed unnatural, and the people, they moved with caution, speaking in hushed tones, as though afraid to wake something. Then came the first scream. A fisherman shaking the shore for salvageable nets stumbled upon a canoe drifting toward the beach. It was one of the missing boats from the night before. At first, he thought it was empty. Then he saw the body inside. The crowd that gathered stood frozen as Baba Dimeji, the most experienced among them, stepped forward. His hands trembled as he touched the wooden frame of the canoe. Inside lay Tunde. He had been one of the most daring young fishermen, bold, quick with laugh, always boasting that the sea would never turn against him. Now his lifeless body told a different story. His skin was pale and swollen, his lips blackened, his hands were frozen in a claw-like grip, as if he had fought something in his final moment. But the worst part was his face. His eyes were gone. A gasp rippled through the villagers. Someone muted, "This is not natural." Mama Efu arrived, pushing her way to the front. She looked at the body, her expression unreadable. Then slowly, she bent down and placed her hand to his forehead. A long silence stretched between her and the dead man. Then she spoke. He was not drowned. He was taken. The murmurs grew louder. Taken. By what? She turned her head slightly, her gaze sweeping across the fearful crowd. Then, without answering, she looked at the sea. The water lapped at the shore, dark and patient, waiting the return of the forgotten song. That night, Getit4Real lay awake in his chambers. Sleep had become a stranger to him, chased away by the whispers in the wind and the restless pull inside his chest. He turned to face his open window. Beyond it, the Atlantic stretched endlessly, its waters now unfamiliar to him. And then he had it. A song. It was soft at first, carried on the breeze like the scent of rain before a storm. But then it grew louder. A woman's voice. It rose and fell like the tide, pulling him under its spell. The language was old, older than I hate to, old stories by elders. Yet somehow Getit4Real understood. The song was not just music, it was a call. He shot upright in bed, his heart pounding. The room was empty, yet he was no longer alone. The song seeped into his bones, wrapping around his soul like tendrils of mist. His hands trembled as he pressed them to his ears, but the song was not coming from within. At sunrise, the elder room was tense. Thick, cleared his throat. This is the ocean is claiming what it took. The goddess has called him. Getit4Real fell. He fell deeper than any man had ever fallen. Past the reach of sunlight, past the memory of air. The ocean wrapped around him like a lover and a prison all at once, cradling him in its cold embrace. Yet he did not drown. He should have. His lungs should have bombed. His body should have thrashed against the crushing pressure, but instead he breathed. The ocean roared. Olokun's fury. The first wave struck without warning. A massive wall of water slammed into the cliffs, sending villagers tumbling backward. The bowls of offerings shattered on the rocks. The priest, then another, and then she rose. From the depths of the sea, Olokun emerged. A towering form loomed over the shrine, her eyes glowing like twin moons in the storm darkened sky. Her braids swayed like serpents, her eyes flowing, with her flowing garments shimmering like the surface of the water. Her voice was the crash of the waves against the shore, the pull of the tide beneath the earth. You dare defy me? The villagers fell to their knees, their faces pressed to the wet ground. But Jibola did not bow. He stood, his face set in stone. "I only ask for my son," he said. Olokun's gaze burned through him. "Your son is no longer yours to claim." Jibola took a step forward. "He is still my blood. Let him choose." Olokun's laughter was like the rush of the ocean tide, deep, unrelenting, and massive. "He still belongs to you? Foolish man, he has already chosen." Jibola's breath caught in his throat, and then he saw him. Getit4 returns, not as before. From the water behind Olokun, a figure emerged. His son. Getit4's dark skin shimmered with the glow of the deep. His once human eyes now gleamed with a luminescence that did not belong to the world above. His robes woven from strands of seaweed and to his newly transformed body. He looked like a prince of the ocean, a god in his own right. And when he spoke, his voice was no longer just his own. It carried the weight of the sea. "Father," Jibola's heart twisted. Getit4, his voice was barely a whisper. For the briefest moment, something flickered in his son's gaze. Something familiar. Then it was gone, replaced by something greater, something eternal. Jibola reached out. "Come home." Getit4 hesitated. He could feel it, the pull of his past, the remnants of his life on land. But it was faint now, a distant echo. The ocean had changed him, and Olokun's voice echoed through his mind. "You cannot belong to both worlds." A painful silence stretched between father and son. Then finally, Getit4 took a step backward, away from the land, back toward the sea. Jibola's breath itched. "No, don't do this." Getit4 closed his eyes. "I am not the boy you lost." And then he was gone. He turned, walking into the water, and as he did, the waves swallowed him whole. The last thing Jibola saw was his son's silhouette fading into the depths. Then nothing. Olokun lingered for a moment longer, her expression unreadable. Then, without another word, she too disappeared beneath the waves, and the sea was silent once more. Jibola fell to his knees. The villagers, still trembling, dared not speak. They had witnessed something beyond mortal understanding. They had seen the gods take one of their own, and they had learned The ocean does not forget. As the sun broke through the storm clouds, casting golden light over Getit4Real, one thing became clear: the village would survive, but it would never be a figure in the waves, washing them from the depths and the deep beneath the sea. Getit4Real embraces his new destiny. Getit4Real was never the same after that day. Though the waves had calmed and the storms had passed, a new silence had settled over the village. People still fished, markets still bustled with trade, life moved forward as it always did, but something had been lost, something they could not felt in their bones. No one spoke of Olokun's wrath aloud. No one dared utter Getit4Real's name in the open. But at night, when the world was quiet, the whispers began. Fishermen claimed they saw a shadow moving beneath the waves, washing them from below. Some said he had returned guardian of the deep. Others feared he was a warning, a reminder that the ocean never forgets its depths. And in the heart of the village, Chief Jibola sat alone in his palace, staring out at the horizon, waiting for a son who would never return. It was Baba Idowu who first spoke of what he had seen. One evening, after a long day at sea, he stumbled into the marketplace, his face pale, his hands trembling. The villagers gathered around him, eager for news. "What is it, Baba Idowu?" they asked. The old fisherman swallowed hard. "I saw him." A hush fell over the crowd. No one had to ask who he was. Baba Idowu licked his cracked lips, struggling to find the words. "We were out in the deeper waters, casting our nets, and then the waves stopped. Everything went still. And then I saw him." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Getit4Real?" The villagers gasped. He stood in the water just beyond our boats. His eyes, they were not the eyes of a man anymore. Baba Idowu shuddered. He was washing, but he did not speak. And when I blinked, he was gone. The whispers grew louder after that. Some refused to believe, some were afraid, and some began to pray to him. A new guardian. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. Fishermen who spoke of Getit4Real with reverence found their nets fuller than ever. Those who mocked his name found their boats capsized in the night. Children playing by the shore claimed to hear a voice whispering from the waves, calling them by name. And then one night, a great storm came. The winds howled, the waves rose like mountains. The village feared another reckoning. But then the ocean calmed. Just as suddenly as the storm had begun, it stopped. Fishermen awoke the next morning. They found something strange on the shore. A pile of fish, pigs, and at the water's edge, half buried in the sand, a single shell lay gleaming. Not an ordinary shell, a cowrie shell. The same kind Getit4Real had always worn. The village knew this was no accident. Getit4Real had saved them. In the palace, Chief Jibola listened to the rumors in silence. He had lost faith in the gods. He had lost his son, and now he was losing himself. One night, he stood at the edge of the water, the tide washing over his feet. "If you can hear me," he whispered, "give me a sign." The ocean was silent for a long time. He simply stood there, staring out at the dark waves. And then a figure rose from the water. For one breathless moment, he saw him. Getit4, no longer a boy, no longer a man, something more. Jibola's heart clenched. Getit4, his son, did not speak, but he smiled. A single tear slipped down Jibo, truly gone. "Aren't you?" Getit4 nodded. But there was no sorrow in his gaze, only peace. Then he was gone, stared at the empty waves for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, he turned and walked away. For the first time, waited for his son, because Getit4 was not lost. He had simply become something greater, a God legacy. As the years passed, Getit4Real changed. The people no longer feared the ocean, they respected it. And they built a shrine but for Getit4, a boy who had been born of the land but claimed by the sea, a boy who became a god. And to this day, when the waves are calm and the wind sings softly over the water, the villagers say he is washing. Getit4 still washes over us, the God of the Atlantic.